We're back. A new book out on Sarah Palin, the darling of the Tea Party, has people talking. Author Joe McGinnis moved next door to the Palins just last year to begin research for the book. And this is how he summed up his investigation into Palin on the Today Show with Savannah Guthrie just yesterday.
An absolute and utter fraud.
You call her a 10th grade mean girl.
Oh, those are kind words compared to a lot of what you would hear in Wasilla today. The thing that I found, Savannah, that really surprised me was that the people who know her best like her least.
Wow. Well, next week, McGinnis's book, The Rogue, Searching for the Real Sarah Palin, will finally hit bookstores. My question, if Sarah Palin decides to run for president, who knows what she's up to? Will this book hurt her chances? Joining me right now, Shoshana Walsh, who's the co-author of another book on Sarah from Alaska, and former Sarah Palin staffer Frank Bailey's up in Alaska. Thank you both for joining us. We're sort of previewing the fact that the McGinnis is coming on, the author is coming on this show next Tuesday, but let's start with some facts here. Let me ask you, Shoshana, is there anything in this book that you've heard about so far that would keep her from running for president?
No, I actually think the opposite, Chris. Again, we've talked about this for a very long time. I still don't know which way she'll go, but I think that if anything, the claims in this book will make her want to run more, and it will inspire her to say, you know what, I can show that Joe McGinnis, I can show everybody that I am going to run for president, and I think it would encourage her more, and I think you'll see that in her supporters as well, but still, we don't know.
So it's not so much the desire to take a job in government like president or governor as it is the desire to show people that the big shots can't tell her what to do.
I think that will definitely be part of it if she decides to do it. And I think that's always been a part of it. And it's how some of her moves are based on. And I think that if you do see her getting in and if you do see her react to this book in the next few days, I think it will be based on that.
Let me ask Frank, who's written about her and has worked for her and knows her close hand. Is this the kind of thing, dishing on her, that excites her, that actually helps her PR nationwide with her people?
Chris, absolutely. I mean, sympathy is the one-trick pony that Palin has been riding now for 6 years. She thrives on it. We used it in the campaign to actually, fire up the base and help her, and she will absolutely use this. It will benefit her.
Well, let's take a look. McGinnis, the author of this new book, believes Palin is guilty of abusing her power. And he points out to how the now famous meeting back in 2007 is an example. He writes, quote, overcoming her distaste for life in the governor's mansion, Sarah invited editors William Crystal and Fred Barnes and Washington Post columnist Michael Gerson, former chief speechwriter for George W. Bush, to lunch. After the meal, Sarah further dazzled her guests by taking them on a helicopter ride for which she billed the state $4,000. The payoff was immediate. Barnes scarcely waited for the cruise to end before writing in the Weekly Standard that Sarah was a Republican star. Shoshana, is that kind of abuse? Some people would say it's the normal way politicians abuse their office anyway, spending $4,000 to show off with some conservatives who've shown up on a boat cruise. Is that going to hurt her?
I don't. In this situation, I really just don't see this as a big problem. I mean, this incident has been reported over and over again about how they had lunch, how they went on a helicopter ride. I think the Troopergate issue could still rear its ugly head, even though it's been reported over and over again. In that situation, there were two. There were a situation where there was an abuse of power, and and that could be brought back up, I think. But with this specific one, I just don't think it's that big of a deal, and especially because we already know about it over and over again. I mean, I don't think this is a revelation that could be brought back on the campaign trail.
Is there any pay dirt there, Frank Bailey, in this book or elsewhere about her abuse of authority that would make people question even voting for her in a primary?
Chris, we wrote about it. I saw it firsthand. Abuse of power took place. She was shown to be guilty of that. We saw her absolutely destroy constituents. And another network that I went on said this was all no big deal. Her, violating campaign finance law and all these things were, quote, no big deal. It is a big deal, and conservatives need to take a very, very hard look at it.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at this other one here. Sarah was this is from the new book. Sarah was peopling her administration with high school friends and or born-again Christians whose qualifications in no way matched their their job requirements descriptions. She named born-again Talis Kohlberg as state attorney general and Wasilla High School Friends as director of prisons, director of the Division of Agriculture, director of the Alaska Railroad. This took cronyism to a level that not even Frank Murkowski, the former governor, would have dared to contemplate. Shoshana, what's that? Is this going to hurt? Does cronyism, hiring the old pals from school that aren't qualified, does this hurt her?
I think this is a really interesting point, and it's something that we've talked about. It's more, I think, about how she doesn't really trust people, and she wants to surround herself by loyalists, and that is what's going on now. Went on then, and Frank can attest to it. I mean, there were people that were, and continue to be, that surround her that really don't have a lot of political experience, but they are very loyal to her. I mean, Frank would say it probably is to himself. I mean, he started at the campaign by saying that he wanted to work for her and he was a supporter, and that continues with other people. And I think that's something that you'll continue to see, that she trusts very little people, so people that say that they're loyal to her are part of that group.
I understand. McGinnis also says in this book that people in Alaska believe that Palin is a political extremist. He writes, for at least 10 years, Sarah had subscribed to an evangelical Christian ideology frequently referred to as dominionism. The goal of dominionists is to put Christian extremists in positions of political power in order to end America's constitutionally mandated separation of church and powers. Do you believe, Frank, having worked for her, that she's a theocrat, somebody who believes the church should run the state?
I think Joe misses the point on this. I really do. I think trust is the bigger issue that Shoshana pointed out. It's hard for me to see her as a religious extremist when I saw her be dishonest and lie to Alaskans and things like that. Okay. I mean, it just doesn't wash out.
It sounds like it's for show. Anyway, thank you, Shoshana, and thanks, you, Frank Bill. Yes, we'll have you back again and again.